Hey class, today we're gonna continue to cover chapter 5 and 6. Uh, we're gonna continue cover the switch statements. Last video we covered the if, else, if statements. That one you actually when the program go through the statements, you actually need to check every single one of them, the condition, to make sure it's either true or false for them to continue. But sometimes if we have the different option for the user to choose, and then just based on what their input, we can actually direct the program to exactly where the option they choose. That's the part we can use called switch statement. Switch statement is by case, not just by the conditions. All right, so the switch statement, the syntax will look like this. At the beginning was the word keyword switch, and followed by parenthesis. Inside this parenthesis is not going to be a conditions. It's actually whatever input or whatever variable holds the data will go in there. Okay, and after that, you see here have a case expression, and then all the case has the break inside. All right, the case 2 here has a break, and they have a default with the break. So what this does is based on the inside these parentheses, the data. Let's say, okay, please choose option between 1 to 3. If they choose 2, here in the case expression, we can put number 1, the number 2 here, and number 3. And of course, we can always put a default in case the user they give a different numbers out of the range. The default part will catch the actions. All right, and for each case you have to put a break. So when they finish execute case 1, they will be able to break out of these switch statements. If you forgot about doing break here for each case, what happens is the program will actually run through the whole statements without breaks. Okay, so that's something you need to be careful. For each case, you do need to implement a break. Okay, and then the statement. So the beginning, that's a header for your switch statements. You follow by the value inside. Okay, certain value. They could be calculation result, like you have x equal to 3, y equal to 5. If inside here you want to put x plus y, that would be 8 in total, right? So what I'm saying is it has to be some type of value, not just the true and false expressions. All right. So and each of the statement have the corresponding case expression. So that one here, it's like you have a case. You have a case 1, 2, 3, or you can have a case A, B, C, something like that. You can choose certain things. They have some example in the book for you to be able to see the details. And the break statement ends each case, so you do make sure you put a break there. Otherwise, there's arrows, and then you will run through your whole programs, give you inaccurate results. So make sure you implement the switch with the break inside. Okay, and there's the examples in the book. Following the examples, you will be able to practice more. And the next topic we're going to talk about is increment and decrements. Okay, that's something we use quite a bit. It's kind of silly at the beginning, but it actually used quite a bit. So increment, that means increase by 1. Decrement is decrease by 1. So regular coding will be number equal to number plus 1, or number equal to number minus 1. But things we increase by 1 and decrease by 1 a lot. So instead of typing the whole thing like that, we come up with the idea by double up the plus sign or negative signs. So this will representing increase by 1. Okay, we have the postfix or prefix. We're gonna mention that later. And our number here, decrease or increase. Okay, if you have the symbol like that plus, that means that number will increase by 1. Okay, you have minus, that means it will decrease by 1. We use that a lot. Later you're gonna see in one of the loop we use. Okay, The next topic important is the while loop. Now we finished the statement. It's if statement or switch statement. And now we're gonna cover 3 different loops. One is called while loop. One is called do while loop. Those 2 work similar. One is the difference. One is check the condition up in the front, and one is check the condition after the loops. So that does about the same thing. The only difference we call pre-condition or post-conditions. And the last loop we're gonna cover is called for loop. That one is the counter loop. So when you are doing some program, you know how many times this loop is supposed to be running, and then you can use the for loop to do so. Okay. For the while loop, the syntax is like that while and the parenthesis, the condition in here. Inside the statement, you can whatever the condition is true, this while loop will be executed inside the loop bodies, and come back to recheck the condition again. If it's still true, they will rerun it until the condition turns to the false at some points. Okay. So you need to be careful when you create those kind of things. You need to make sure the condition at some point of the coding, it will turn into a false. Okay. If it's continue being true, what you're gonna get is an infinite loop. So the only way it's to finish the program is actually you stop the program. You kill the execution files. All right. So when you are setting up the condition for your while loop, make sure this condition inside the statement somehow will turn the condition to a false at some point of the time. Okay. We use the while loop or do while loop a lot for input validations. Okay. So the flow chart look like this. You come in, they check the expressions. If it's true, they execute a statement. Once they finish the statement, they kick it back to the same condition again, the while loop condition, to check, keep checking. If it's true, they're gonna repeatedly continue. If it's false, they will continue with the rest of the programs. The infinite loop, the example is like this. If x equal to 20, and if x, as long as while the x is greater than 0, and then what? We're gonna display the x, okay? And then go back, check x is greater than 0 again. Yeah, x still equal to 20. So what happened? They're gonna repeat it, keep displaying this x is greater than 0 to infinite times until you kill the processor, the programs. All right. How to fix this? Like I mentioned, you need somehow to make sure your program train it to the condition to a false at some point. Like in this case here, you see x minus minus. That means x decreased by 1 every interval we go through this loop. So this loop will display how many times? 20 times. When x equal to 1, it still display. And decrease by 1, now x equal to 0. And when they go back, x is 0 is not greater than 0. So it's false. And then you're finished. Okay, so you need to, again, the condition somehow has to be stopped at some point by turning the condition to the false. Although the like we mentioned before, the single statements of the loop doesn't need the curly brace, but again, my class I require curly brace all through the semester for you to practice to get better at the coding. Later on, you can modify it. Okay. While loop for the input validations, you can see here, today you ask the user to give you a number between 1 and 100. The user, whatever you ask, sometimes they give you the wrong number. And how to do input validation. You ask them to input a number, you read the number, convert it to the integers, save here. And then use the while loop. If it's a number less than 1 or greater than 100, that means it's out of the range you ask, right? And ask them invalid input. Enter your number range again. And then most important part here, you need to let them re-enter and you will grab the new number again. Without this line of the code here, it's gonna be an infinite loop because you didn't give them a chance to fix the problem. So with this line, as long as they put a number between 1 and 100, you will be able to get out this while loop. This is the input validations. Also, for our assignments for the lottery program, that's the part you need to check the random number or user input number to make sure they don't repeat compared to other numbers. You never see repeat number in the lottery program, right? I mean, the actual lotteries. That would be real weird. Okay, that's a while loop. Do while loop is a post-test loop that does exactly the same thing like a while loop, but only different the syntax. They have a do in the front, while in the back, condition followed by the while, the end with the parentheses, semicolons to end this do while loop, the whole things. Okay, so they are pretty much the same. The only difference do while loop, you see, when they come into do while, they will run the body of the do while loop first and then check the condition. When you do while loop, they check the condition. If the first condition is false, they don't get into the loop at all. Okay, but do while loop, they do get into the loop once before they check the condition. That's the main difference, pre-test and post-test. Okay, both of them works. Just depends on how you call your programs. You see that it go through a statement first, check the condition. If it's true, kick you back. Wrong again. So it does the same thing, but some situation you need a pre-test, some situation you want a post-test. Like input validation, post-test might not be a bad idea. So do while might be more efficient in my opinions. Okay. Then the next one is the for loop. For loop, they come with the syntax like that: for followed by parentheses. Inside this parentheses, they have 3 sections. Initialization section, what are you initializing? The counters, okay, the counter. And text is the condition. Compare the counter to certain number you're looking for. Update, remember any loop, you need to update the counter to train it to possible the condition will turn into a false to stop. So that's the update for updating your counters. Okay, that's a 3 section. That's a syntax looks like. Okay, so in the for loop, you comes in, you check if the test still true, statement update and come back. Before the update here, they actually have the initialization should be up in the front there. Okay, the section here, initialization section for for loop, allow loop to initialize its own control variable. Like I say, it's a counter. The test section is the one to check the condition if it's still true. If it's true, continue the for loop. If it's false, finish the loop. Update is the part you can control the control variable, which is the counter, to increase or decrease whatever trended to make the condition turn into a false at some points. Okay, that's a section of the for loops. For loop initializations. In reality, they're optional, but again, for this class, you're practicing, so do not skip any of these sections: initialization, tests, and the updates. They are skippable, but that's more for people with more experience and very easy to make a mistake by skipping that. All right, this is just something you can re-up, but not recommend at all. Same thing as update. Update at the end, we would like you to update inside the for loop format. Don't like you to update the variable inside the statements. That's creating some problems if you are not experienced. Okay, so the for loop is pretty nice, and again, follow the book examples, and then you will have a practice. Okay, so like I said, do not modify the control variable, which is the counter inside your program. It's a bad programming hobby styles to do so, because it's dangerous to mess up with your for loops. Okay, and you do be able to do multiple initialization and multiple updates at the same time. Okay, but for the testing, the condition, you can only have one condition, but you can concatenate them together with logical operators, or and, or something like that. Okay, in here you see initialize integer I equal to 5, integer j equal to 0, and the testing here, as long as I less than 10 or j less than 20, this statement will continue. But once they continue, the update is j plus plus. I plus plus, that means increase by 1. J plus equal, that means increase by 2. Okay, so this is the format for the for loop look like, with multiple initialization counter variables or multiple updates. Again, test here, condition can only have one, but if you have three different ones, you can concatenate them together, use the logical operators, okay? And of course, you can do something like this, skipping all three parts. The loop's still gonna work, but the semicolon has to be there. But again, it's not recommended for this class. You guys have to practice more to get there. For the for loop, things you can control the interval of the programs. So when you calculate a running total of an array or the certain numbers, it's perfect program for you to do so, okay? So that's why for loop, we work a lot with the arrays for you to be able to calculate the result, averaging and stuff like that, okay? Sentinel value is usually ends the point of input data is unknown. Like for example, when you go shopping online, shopping cart, they give you different options, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can the last one like a 7 to exit, or you can type the word exit to exit it out, something like that. So whatever value they create, especially for finishing the program, finishing the input process, that's called sentinel value. Like for example, sometimes you write a program, please enter a number between 1 and 100 for the grade book. When you finish, enter -1 or -99 to finish the input process. So all those special value you create, it's called sentinel value to stop the input process. It could be number, could be characters, could be strings to do so. Those are called sentinel values. And all the loop we just mentioned today here, it could be nested, okay? Nested loop, that means loop inside a loop. Here is example of for loop. Normally, like if a two-dimensional array we mentioned, it has to be nested loop. So we can control a row, control columns, okay? Nested loop. While loop can do the nested loop too. Do while can do the same thing as well. Just depends on the task you are working on, okay? Which loop to use will be more beneficial? It's, again, it's a personal preference, but they do have some, once you practice a lot, you will get a feeling of it, which loop will make more sense. While and do while, you know, the difference pre-test and post-test, they kind of do the same thing. The while loop, you do, you know, the statement if not necessary has to execute it at all, the while loop might be it. Do while loop is like, you know, the statement at least have to execute it once. Like if you ask a user input and the validator input, at least you need to let them input once, right? So that do while loop makes sense. And for loop, it's pre-test loop, but the thing is, that's counter loop. So as long as you kind of knowing how many times you need this loop to execute it, usually you will choose for loop, okay? This is the main idea of chapter 5 and 6. It's an important concept you need to understand for the looping and the statements. So the plenty of the examples in the book for you guys to practice. So try it. If you have any question, please let me know. Thank you.